understanding them in context. Now, with that said, I'm going to give you references where it says the words of God, which refers to the Scriptures, can never be corrupted. I'm going to give you two references that testify to that fact.
Okay.
One which I read earlier.
Make sure you have these references on hand.
And by the way, let me just, it's not only important that you read the references, I highly encourage you, my brother in the Lord Jesus Christ, go to our website,
Who Corrupted the Gospel?
answering-islam.org. Answering-islam.org. Please go there.
The gospel?
When you go to the main page, you're going to see a section that says
Acts
the
17
Qur'an.
Apologetics.
Go to the main page, to your left, there's a section that says the Qur'an. Click on it. There you're going to see a section that says what the Qur'an says about the Bible. You're going to see a plethora of articles that give full expositions of these passages. So it's not just important reading the passages, but understanding them in context. Now, with that said, I'm going to give you references where it says the words of God, which refers to the Scriptures, can never be corrupted. Let me give you two references that testify to that fact. One which I read earlier, chapter 6, verse 115. So write this down. Chapter 6, verse 115. It says, none can change the words of your Lord. Now, even Muslim expositors, and this is why you need to go to the website to read the commentaries that we provide by Muslims, who admit that this refers to the Scriptures, because the Scriptures are the words of Allah, the words of God. So chapter 6, verse 115, chapter 18, verse 27, those two verses, write those down. They talk about the incorruptibility of the words of Allah. And according to the Qur'an, the Torah, the law of Moses, the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ, even the Psalms of David, the Qur'an makes reference to the Zabur, the Psalms of David. Let me give you the references to that. In chapter 4 of the Qur'an, verse 163, chapter 4, verse 163, and chapter 17, verse 55. Chapter 17, verse 55, it says, Allah gave the Psalms to David. And even quotes from Psalm 37, verse 29. It even quotes directly from Psalm 37, verse 29, in chapter 21 of the Qur'an, verse 105. Chapter 21, verse 105, actually is a direct quotation from Psalm 37, verse 29. So the Qur'an acknowledges that these are scriptures of Allah, these are His words, therefore they can never be corrupted. Now some other passages I want you to look at, but make sure to go to the website to read the full exposition of the meaning of these passages. Chapter 3 of the Qur'an, verse 3 and 4. Chapter 3 of the Qur'an, verse 3 and 4. That's one. Chapter 3 of the Qur'an, verses 48 to 50. Chapter 3 of the Qur'an, verses 48 to 50. That's another. Chapter 3, verse 48 to 50. Chapter 5 of the Qur'an, verses 43 all the way to 48. Chapter 5 of the Qur'an, verses 43 all the way to 48.
And that would probably be the
best
passage.
That's the most powerful. And let me mention two more. Chapter 10, verse 94, which I did not read. Chapter 10, verse 94, where it says, if you, and it's singular, by the way. Those
Muhammad,
are Arabic.
that's when it's singular, it's talking to Muhammad
yes.
there.
And there it says, if you, Muhammad, are in doubt concerning the revelations which we sent down to you, ask those who've been reading the book before you. Surely the truth has come to you from your Lord, so do not be of the doubters. Two things to note from that passage, chapter 10, verse 94. Number one, the Qur'an acknowledges that Muhammad was doubting whether these revelations came from God. So, the Qur'an acknowledges that Muhammad himself was questioning, are these really revelations from God? Number two, it tells Muhammad, if you want to assure yourself that these revelations are from God, go to the people who've been reading the book before you. There is no Muslim in this world who will deny that's a reference to Jews and Christians. Why do I say that? All throughout the Qur'an, Jews and Christians are called Ahl al-Kitab. Ahl al-Kitab, meaning the people of the book. Why are they called that? Because the Qur'an recognizes, long before Muhammad, Allah, supposedly the God of the Qur'an, sent down revelation to the Jews and Christians. So this is why they're called the people of the book. So now my brother, notice this. If you're doubting whether the Qur'an is from God, you're commanded to go to the Jews and Christians to consult their book to determine whether this book is from God or not. Irony of irony.
Yeah.
The reason why I say irony of ironies, my brother, is because if you as a Muslim, and you're not, I'm speaking to the Muslim, come to me and say, hey, is this Qur'an from God? Can you confirm it for me? The last thing in the world I'll tell you is that the Qur'an's from God. Because the Qur'an contradicts the book that the Qur'an confirms to be true, meaning the Bible, thereby proving that Muhammad is a false prophet and the Qur'an is a false message. Now let me read the final one, and we'll go to your other question. This one is a powerful one. My brother, are you aware that the Qur'an says that those who deny the message given to the apostles of God, they will be fetid fluid for the fire? Chapter 40, verses 70 to 72. Chapter 40, verses 70 to 72. Those who cry lies to the book, and that wherewith we sent our messengers. Now notice, it's attacking people who say the Qur'an is a lie, and the message given to the messengers before Muhammad, soon they will know when the fetters and chains are on their necks, and they are dragged into the boiling water. Now Yusuf Ali translates it as fetid fluid. Then into the fire they are poured. Did you catch that? If you dare say, my Bible is a lie, it's corrupted, the Qur'an says a painful torment awaits you. Now does that sound like a man who believed the Bible's corrupt? That was chapter 40, verses 70 to 72. And that was his first question.
Yeah, and I mean, just think about this. So you have several passages there. Those are all the key passages. But just think about the irony here. We didn't. Sam mentioned the passage, Surah 5, 43 to 48. Verse 47 of that passage commands Christians to judge by the gospel. It says, "People of the gospel, we have to judge by what Allah has revealed therein." If we judge by what we read in the gospel. First of all, we can't do that if the gospel has been corrupted. The gospel has been changed. It's no longer reliable. It was corrupted by the Apostle Paul or at the Council of Nicaea. Can we judge by the gospel? No, we don't have it. We don't have it anymore. Or if we do have it, it's weird and full of corruption and false teaching, so we can't judge by it. So when the Quran commands us to judge by what we read in the gospel, we have to go with the gospel we have, which according to the Quran cannot be corrupted anyway. So we have to judge by the gospel as Christians according to the Quran, and if we don't, if we refuse, if we say, I'm not going to judge by the gospel, the Quran calls us rebels. We're no better than those who rebel if we refuse to judge by the gospel. So think about this. Christians, according to the Quran, are commanded to judge by what we read in the gospel. If we judge Islam by what we read in the gospel, we have to reject Islam, we have to reject Muhammad. But not only are we commanded to judge by the gospel, Muslims themselves, starting with Muhammad, are supposed to come to us and confirm, hey, if you have any doubts, check with the people who read the gospel and the Torah. And we're going to tell you, hey, we already judged that Islam is false. So kind of a broad picture here. This goes back to what Sam calls the Islamic dilemma. If the gospel has been corrupted, then Muhammad's a false prophet, because he commanded us to judge by the gospel, and he was commanded to come and listen to us, to what we say about the gospel, and to judge his religion by what we read in the gospel. So if the gospel has been corrupted, Muhammad's a false prophet, because his religion tells you to believe in the gospel. If, on the other hand, the gospel is reliable, and no one can corrupt it, no one's ever corrupted it, then Muhammad's still a false prophet because he contradicts it. His teachings contradict the core claims. So, if the gospel is reliable, Muhammad's a false prophet. If the gospel is reliable, Muhammad's a false prophet. Either way, Muhammad's a false prophet. Let's talk about the gospel because Islam's just done. Islam self-destructs by affirming a message that it contradicts. All right, brother, we have other callers to go to, but you said you had multiple questions. We'll try and take one more if we can.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother. By the way, did you understand our answer, brother?
Oh, yes, perfectly. I've been reading your articles as well, but my other question is relating to Brother David's claim. Brother David likes to say that I think, if you look at, it's a bit off the topic, I'm sorry, but violence according to the Quran is prescriptive, while violence in the Bible is more like a descriptive thing. However, Muslims like to refute by saying, but look at the book of Deuteronomy, for example, down there, Christians are commanded to kill mercilessly, and also I think Luke 14:23. Well, I'll take the answer.
Yes,
of the line.
Make sure you hear the answer.
Yeah.
Make sure you hear the answer, and
yeah.
We're going to have to do a full topic.
I hope you guys can help me answer that just briefly.
Yes.
Help me refute those clips briefly.
Sure.
I'll take the answer of the line.
I'll start off with the Quran, then you want to address the Deuteronomy.
Repeat this question
okay.
so people understand.
So the question is, by the way, everyone, just to get the general idea, because this is so common, people in the West in general, we look at the Quran and we say, look, this is filled with violent passages. So if our objection is there's violence in the Quran, Well, guess what? We're being inconsistent, right? Because there's violence in the Bible. So we have to say, well, what's the difference? Well, when we open up the Qur'an, it's not saying a particular Muslim at a particular time was commanded to commit violence in some particular set of circumstances. The commands to commit violence are directed towards Muslims. They're directed towards Muslims. So our bread and butter when we bring this topic up, Surah 9, verse 29, says, fight those who do not believe in Allah. And it gives a list of things you're going to fight people over. And it specifically says, from among the people of the book, that's Jews and Christians, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. So this passage, it's not a command to a particular Muslim. It's not saying, and it was revealed to Moses that he had to go fight someone. It's a command to Muslims. It is a command to Muslims to fight. And these are Muhammad's final marching orders. Surah 9 is the last major surah revealed in the Quran. And it commands Muslims to go out and fight. And you find a bunch of passages like this. You find them in the Quran, you find them in the Hadith, where Muslims are told they're supposed to go out and violently subjugate unbelievers. And it doesn't say, just you, and then once you're done, and then once you die, then it's over. These are the final marching orders for Muslims. They are told to go out and fight, and guess what? That's all you see for the first several centuries of Islam, up until the modern period where Islam wasn't as powerful, and that's when you start hearing Islam's a religion of peace. Before this, no Muslim said Islam is a religion of peace unless they mean it in a very specific sense. But Muslims are commanded to go out and violently subjugate other people. Are Christians commanded to go out and violently subjugate unbelievers? But we do have passages in the Bible talking about fighting and killing and so on. True. So what do we do with those passages, Sam?
Now, even before I get into it, we don't have to take a break, do we? Because I don't want to get cut off in the middle.
Okay, yeah, we do. Let's take our last break. We'll come back. We'll answer this question, and then we'll move on. All right. We'll see you back in just a moment on Jesus or Muhammad. Welcome back to Jesus or Muhammad. We've got a question about the violence in the Bible. Is it the same thing? I pointed out that the violence we find in the Quran is prescriptive. And all that means is it's actually it's a prescribing behavior. It's telling Muslims, you go out and do this. The question is the violence in the Bible, and there is violence in the Bible, is that telling Christians what to do? Is that telling us this is how you are supposed to go out and treat people now? Obviously, in the Old Testament, that's not written for us. This is in the context of, wars over the land of Israel.
Yeah, you can even read it. It says, exterminate a specific people group, and it mentions them by name, like the Canaanites. Well, we don't have any Canaanites.
It's not go out and exterminate everyone for all time. And
go and wipe out everyone that breathes who doesn't believe in Yahweh, or Moses as his messenger. Does not exist in the Old Testament. So that's a description of how God worked through Israel at that time. But the argument goes like this, and this was the point. And I'll try to address it briefly, and Lord willing, I hope you're listening, we're going to devote a full topic sometime this week. If not tomorrow, maybe Monday, Lord willing, we'll devote a full topic on addressing all the New Testament passages that Muslims wrench out of context to prove that command to wipe out anyone who doesn't accept the gospel of Jesus Christ is still binding upon us. But let me real quickly, you said Luke 14:23. Luke 14:23 says this. This is a passage that Muslims do quote out of context. Jesus is quoting a parable, and in the parable, the master said to the servant, Luke 14:23, go out to the highways and hedges and compel people to come in, that my house may be filled. For some reason, Muslims assume compel means use violence, use force, even the threat of death if they don't embrace the gospel of Jesus Christ. That can't be the meaning. That compel cannot mean use physical violence, physical force to compel people to accept the gospel of Jesus Christ. He's easily confirmed by looking at Luke chapter 10, verses 5 to 15. Specifically, Luke 10, verses 5 to 12. So, brother, I hope you're listening to me. If you want to know what this passage doesn't mean, just go a few chapters earlier to Luke chapter 10, verses 5 to 15, specifically 5 to 12. Let me read it. Here's what Jesus tells his disciples to do when someone rejects the gospel. If compel means kill them or use physical violence, then surely you'll find it in the clear instructions that Jesus gives to the disciples as he sends them out to preach the gospel, right? Because Luke 14:23 is a parable. So you take a parable, misinterpret it, in order to give the impression that he's saying use physical force. Well, here's
There's only-
plain instructions on how to spread the gospel.
I'll get
in Luke
back to
10,
this.
verses 5 to 15, and notice what
Another
Jesus
part's
does not
coming
say.
up.
Let me read it.